Hi guys, and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. We help Muslims and non-Muslims to handle Islam in the 21st century. My name is Mustafa and this is my co-host in the nick of time. If you wish to talk about Islam, the ideology, you have come to the right place. We cover current Islamic news, Islamic scripture, some crazy comments, and a weekly topic about Islam to examine, critique, and analyze. If this is not enough Islam for you, please drop by our Discord to discuss any further questions about Islam. We condemn any form of discrimination, violence, misogyny, slavery. However, we do embrace free speech and criticism if it's factual and correct. Thank you for stopping by and enjoy the Gin and Tonic Show.
Hello.
Hi guys, hello Baran, here we are with the weekly Gin and Tonic Show. How are you, Nick, today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I promise I did not engage in any intoxication last night. I promise that, you and I, you were there, you were witness to me.
I was there when I saw you get drunk, and I surprised that you didn't get drunk.
Hey. Shh. We have to keep this silent. But yes, this is Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. I hope, most of you, 78% of you voted that, let's go with the Gin and Tonic Show today. So we're having our show today. You can watch it live or you can stream it afterwards as well. So we have some interesting topics for you today. What don't you think, Nick?
Yeah, we researched on some traditions that were essentially plagiarized, and we have some peer-reviewed articles, which I think is the way to go when searching this stuff. And we want to provide our analysis for it, both Mustafa and I, just for the audience in general. And
yeah, I think we named this instead outside influences over Islam, especially we'll look at history. Well, the thing is, because this is such a vast in itself, that we decided, okay, we're going to actually do episodes on it, not just one episode, because we found, Nick and I were discussing this, we found that one episode won't be enough. So we'll start somewhere where, we'll look at some peer-reviewed articles. But before, we'll do our usual, like the Quran corner, because we've been having missing the Quran for a few times. We'll look at some news, some crazy memes, and then, so our topic, we'll talk about outside influences, potential outside. So this will be speculation, similarities. We'll look at some cultural things that you've noticed as well. And I was researching this, and Nick and I were researching this too. Nick found some articles. I found some interesting things about, that's within the Islamic text. So first, I'm going to also show you in the end what the Islamic text says. Nick will show you the news article, but we'll share the articles, the peer-reviewed articles, and Nick was the one who found them. He'll analyze them. And, we will also critique these articles as well. But first, let's go to the news, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. Let me just share the first article that we have for today is a Saudi court. It's in Saudi Arabia. Saudi court has jailed a Yemeni man for 15 years for apostasy. 15 years, can you imagine? So he's been sentenced for promoting apostasy, unbelief, and atheism online. So online, they've been, so this person, Ali Abu Luhu Laham, in October, he made some comments on anonymous Twitter accounts. So he's been initially they've of course, Saudi's government office is not going to respond to comment. They told his family that the social media activities were the form of his arrest, according to Human Rights Watch. You guys can see this, right? You guys
can see we can see it. I can see it clearly.
Okay, perfect. Hang on, let me just expand this a bit. All right. So charges mentioned. I apologize for these ads. I can't get rid of them. So it says included denial of the existence of God, impersonating, doubting, and mocking God, Islam, Prophet Muhammad, promoting atheism, publishing and promoting which prejudices public order, religious values, and public morals on social media. Now, the article acknowledges that the Reuters, that it's the birthplace, even though being the birthplace, it's the Wahhabi Sunni school of thought that's the strictest. And even though Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has been trying to bring in foreign investment by showing, oh hey, we're changing. Does not look good. This does not look good. And even though there was, initially the lawyers, what I was reading in this article, that the prosecution wanted to argue for a death sentence first. Instead, the judge awarded a 15-year prison sentence, which is insane. So I'll even share this in the comments as well, so you guys can take a look for yourselves.
Yeah, no, that's very merciful of the judge.
Extremely merciful. So remember, he had mercy like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just give me a second. I have another article that I want to share with you guys. So this man was arrested for apostasy. So we have another article about Islamophobia. So the other side of the spectrum. So let's just share screen. So, and this is also regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. So COVID-19 pandemic deepens online Islamophobia in Europe. So I don't know here's the thing. I don't know if they're using the same definition on criticism of Islam versus bigotry against Muslims. So I know they're definitely they're mixing both of them because people are spending more time online. So it's a report called the European Islamophobia Report from an Istanbul-based Turkish-German university. And in some countries with forced retreat, the physical Islamophobia has decreased, yet at the same Islamophobia to private sphere being spread, especially to social media. Now, here's the thing. What definition are they using? Because they say hate crime has decreased, physical hate crime, but like online it's difficult to tell. And I feel like somebody has
Why so came on.
Hold on, y'all.
So
1 second. Give me some time. My wife is about to be home for a few minutes. I got to help her with something. I'll be back.
Okay,
Right.
perfect. We'll just discuss the news in the meantime. So we have the overwhelming European. So they look at Austria and Czech Republic. I'll share this article with you guys as well, so you can actually take a look. 901 crimes of Islamophobia, but I feel like they need to, define it properly. They need to replace this term, like you and I agree. 235 cases in France. Again, we're not supporting of hate crime, but we need to find there's collective Islamophobia has increased in the country.
Because when I provide critique of something, an ideology, I don't hate it. Like, is me asking a question and not agreeing with a physics statement that's clearly wrong? Physicophobia?
Yeah, exactly. So
and are Democrats Republican phobic?
Exactly. You can actually apply that statement because it's such a catch-all statement, right? That it includes critics and bigots into the same category, whereas it's more
if you got one of
than
those
that.
if you got one of those people that are like, okay, kill Republicans,
Yes,
those people should be arrested because they're yelling
Exactly.
fire in a movie theater.
exactly.
But if there's a Democrat who's having a clear discussion, like let's say Joe Rogan is having a clear discussion with Ben Shapiro, is Joe Rogan Republican phobic?
Yeah,
So I think it's the same thing.
Look at Scandinavia, however, shows that they experience discrimination. Okay, this is something you need to highlight: discrimination in labor practice, especially in Denmark. This is something that you should be including in your report. So at least I'll give them credit for that. But women who wear hijab have had to send 60% more job applications. Okay, so this is visual discrimination. Minority ethnic women have made, so this is ethnic 18% more jobs than white Danish women. Hate crimes in Finland have decreased by 1.2%. Okay, this is an interesting hate crime has decreased.
And then when like on just that job thing, like the hiring discrimination, we actually did a discussion on that on my channel.
Yes.
Talking about hiring discrimination. So if people are interested about that, I can put the link for it in the description and in the chat, and they can actually look at why exactly hiring discrimination is a bad thing. It's
so we talked about hiring discrimination based on experiences and especially new students and graduates. So this is definitely an interesting topic Nick and I were talking about. And here we encounter a case hiring discrimination based on religion. So there is some discrimination in we call it Denmark. However, in Finland, they decreased by 1.2%. Which is not a lot. 72% of the hate crimes in Finland were related to ethnic backgrounds, 14 related to religious backgrounds. So, and Somali, Iraqi, and Turks suffered most from these attacks, respectively. Then we have perfect. There's no segregated cities for anti-Muslim bias are available in Spain. Interesting. Hate crimes increased, however, by 6.8%, which is interesting. Because this is looking at the complaints over the hate crimes.
One thing I don't like about articles like this is they don't really cite where they get the source from. And I get it that they're trying to be clear and concise for the article, but I want to know where they got. So is it a Pew Research poll? Is it a survey? What's the number of?
I think they actually referred the university, right? Like the Turkish-based university.
They did. Then I think it's because I got
this is called European Islamophobia report was prepared by the international relations professor at Istanbul-based Turkish-German University, and Fareed Hafiz. She's also a political scientist from Georgetown University's Bridge Initiative. They've actually worked together on this. So I'll at least give this.
Then. I was just going to say, like, my bad then, because I'm so used to looking at research articles that are peer-reviewed, and every time they put a statistic like this, they cite that source with, like, the bracket, so-and-so offer and such, and they'll put the citation in the bottom. And I got so used to that, I was like, I don't know who wrote this and where to get this information from for us.
Mind you, because it's not so much it's a Pakistani news article, right? So they're not very good with, like, citing. But at least I give the author credit that they uncredited the professors and researchers. So I give them credit for this. We were looking at. We forgot to look at Belgium. 90.6 recorded pertaining to enacted against women. Okay, so now this is a discrimination against women. That is now, what kind of discrimination was it? Because they, was it speaking out against the hijab, or was it actually? Because there were some hate crimes against women wearing hijab, or Muslim women in general. So Muslim women are, discriminated against. So there is some hate crimes. Employment, then
and again, like, we can even even for that as well, we need to differentiate. Like, if it's for a job or like that's security related, and if you go in there with a niqab, I can get why. Like, there's a difference between like saying like pulling it off and assaulting someone, but then there's also a difference between setting a rule saying if you're doing a certain job, you need to have this. If I go work in McDonald's and I want to make the burgers in the dress shirt, it's not going to work. I got to wear the McDonald's uniform, sing the song, flip the burger, and serve the food.
Phil and I also discussed this last week too about this week with the previous one, where we were talking about Quebec as well having its own uniform, like saying that public servants should not be wearing religious symbols. That is. So this is a rule on public servants specifically. So no crosses, no turbans, no hijabs, nothing like that. So there was a clear ruling on being a public servant. However, any other job, there was no restriction with Quebec. However, Quebec was labeled Islamophobic for that.
Yeah, and I like how they play the professional victim here. Like they're targeting everyone. Why is no one defending the Sikhs?
Yes, exactly. So nobody's defending the Sikhs in that situation in Quebec. And there were some cases in Quebec, famous court cases, which we'll discuss in another channel, about the discrimination against different religions on what they wear. So now we're going to look at the UK and Ireland, our favorite country. Even though none of us live there, but most of our audience members stops us from. Most of our audience members do come from there. So, wake of the UK lockdown, aggravated hate crimes rose to more than a third. So, this is hate crimes. Muslims and their families 4 times more likely to experience hate crime than Christians. Okay, now this is very concerning. Muslims and their families. So, in terms of hate crimes, that is. So, according to Hope to Not Hate, over half of the ruling Conservative Party's members think Islam in negative terms, and consider Islam. Now, hang on. They need to differentiate, because this is where I kind of agree with the Conservative Party that, this is the ideology that they're criticizing. But at the same time, the motive behind it could also be just discrimination in general. So they've kind of like catched all it onto one package. Whereas in 2019,
but again, like I don't want to put like the view of what their intention was, because like the article itself, it's an unbiased way where they're doing it to everyone and not just one sect. Turning it into making it look like it's for one sect, but it's not so.
Yeah, I think it's also saying that over a half of ruling Conservative members think of Islam in negative terms, but it's in what way? Like they, are they critics of the ideology, or do they just hate Islam in general? So
I mean, what's wrong?
And
I would just ask,
it also depends on what they say.
Exactly. Yes. Why so? You were saying?
I mean, what's wrong with not liking an idea or a belief system?
Exactly. So this is very clear, like, this having the Conservative Party's opinion, because, that's what we were trying to say. They've packaged anti-Muslim discrimination with criticism of the ideology or not liking the ideology into one collective package, whereas that's not the case. It's actually much more complex than that. So this article is showing, like, it's kind of like combining the hate crimes versus online activity as well in Europe. Again, this is focusing on Europe. And then in Lithuania, we had 47 criminal offenses against a person of, so again, in regards to religion, 8 crimes were initiated by police. 14 incidents out of the 557 Muslims were targeted. In 44 cases, the targeted ethnicity might have been linked to Islam, such as Arabs and Turks.
But I think might have been like a key.
Yeah, it might have been.
Is it for sure linked?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because
again,
because.
So the article, the article is kind of misleading. At least the title, that is. That it deepens online Islamophobia, whereas now when we expand upon it, it kind of shows a different story. Actually, looked at the individual country statistics and what constitutes as, what was your definition of Islamophobia, for example. So the article is a bit, needs to clarify on these things. I have another. Also, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. Something that just popped in my mind is this argument that Muslims have where criticizing Islam leads to hate crimes, right? Like so if you throw the opposite on that, how come like proselytizing Islam doesn't always lead to more shahadas?
Exactly.
It would seem that it would be a counterbalance in the sense that if your claim is that constantly ridiculing Islam leads to hate crimes or violence, then it would seem that the opposing side would that for every time I hear something about Islam, I would want to take my shahada and believe in it.
Yeah, and I think it's. I feel like it's the situation is a lot more complex, and that's why even Haris Sultan, I agree with him, says that we need to replace Islamophobia, the terminology, with anti-Muslim bigotry, and separate criticism of the ideology completely.
Yeah.
We need to be able to tell the differences between them. I'm sure the xenophobia within those in the UK will lead to misreport of all crimes as being religiously motivated. This could be a possibility. This definitely could be a possibility. So, Smile, you have a good point there. So, I think it was. But what do you guys think? What is your take on this? At least in regards to online, so-called online Islamophobia, for example, in Europe.
Well, yeah, like if you compare it to what Mohammed Hijab does, like I don't think it's too serious. But like at the end of the day, they're online. There's going to be trolls all over the place, and if you're going to take that as an attack, it's not too serious because in the article itself, there's 552 cases, but only 14 of them were towards Islam, and I think that was I might be mistaken, but that's what I got away from it.
Yeah,
So
557 and then 14 Muslims. That is Muslims in the
yeah. So that's less than 0.2%. So that's not even 1% of the misconduct are towards it. So statistically speaking, like it's not a majority. They're not out to get us. It's a very small minority. 14 out of 525 is not even 1%, right? So
yeah. There's another. Now this is real hate article that I'm going to share with you guys. Share screen. So now this is this is something that's actually concerning. So there have been calls for Muslim genocide at Hindu religious assembly sparks outrage in India. So there has been an increasing, there have been this right-wing rise in Hindu, in India specifically, where there has been discrimination against the Muslim community in general, and this is actually a very concerning situation that people are making these speeches, and they're not arrested, and they should be, because this is contrary to the Indian Penal Code of hate speech. That is. So it's such a so this is something we need to address. And then also Munawar Farooqi, he's a Muslim stand-up comedian. He's recently suggested he may not do more shows amid protests by the Hindu right-wing outfits. 12 of his shows got cancelled in the last 2 months over threats of vandalism, as Hindu groups accusing him of mocking Hindu deities. So they accuse him of hate. So they kind of use threats of violence towards towards different Muslim figures, that is. So, so the police chief in Uttarakhand, he said that they're gonna investigate the matter. There have been cases registered, hate cases registered in India. Oh geez, why? Go away, go away. All right, these ads just pop up.
Are you buying any thing for Boxing Day?
No, Boxing Day's gone, long gone. I've already seen the sales, and I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
Do better. Where's you evil?
Just as a thing for this article, though, this is a thing that we actually don't want to promote. Like it's the hate. Like you can sit down as a Hindu and have a critique of the ideology, but like asking for a genocide is where not only should that be crushed down, all those people who said that should be arrested.
Yeah, And this is a picture of protesters targeting at the Hajj House, the Hajj House basically in New Delhi. So, and there's another article of a famous actor, what do you call it, Nasiruddin Shah, that I'm going to share with you guys.
Well, yeah, I really like his work, so.
Yeah, Nasiruddin Shah, whoops, I accidentally closed the link. My apologies. Where is the link? Sorry, guys. Actually, there's a lot of news, lots of things happened in the past few days. Okay. Hang on, there's Putin, because we're going to have to cover Putin as well. It's going to come up. 1 second. This article is taking
be careful
forever.
what you say about Putin. I don't want to get whacked.
All right. We're gonna make sure you're not gonna get whacked, okay?
Yeah, he's gonna use Edward Snowden to find where I live, and
there we go, Nasiruddin Shah. Okay, let me just share the screen. So share screens. So this also addresses the Muslim calls for Muslim genocide. So he's Nasiruddin Shah. I agree with him. This could lead to a civil war. Because this is the Modi's government actually allowing many far-right groups to just roam freely like that, and they're calling for genocide there's a 200 million people in the Muslim community reported in India. 200 million. There could be more. So it's such. I'm actually glad that there are public figures addressing this, because this is, the Muslim community being marginalized, and there was a 3-day hate speech conclave that was organized by the Hindutva leader Yati Narsingham in Haridwar city in the Uttarakhand state. So I'm probably butchering that name, but yeah. So this is a very concerning situation, and this person is reported to have said that nothing is impossible without weapons. If you want to eliminate their population, then kill them, be ready to go to jail. Even if 100 of us are ready to kill 20 lakhs of them, then we will be victorious and go to jail. That's the kind of stuff that we're hearing, according to the reports, that is. This is scary stuff.
So at what point, here's the question, at what point is it one group of ideology battling the other ideology by their same ideology?
Wait,
have you thought of it that way?
Which way?
Like, I think we would agree that Islamic ideology tends to favor battles, against people, and the killing of people who don't want to submit to Islamic rule. So at what point does it become the battle of ideologies, as opposed to, I'm not saying that it's not genocide if it happens, but what I'm saying is, at what point does it become a battle of the religious beliefs, and not just, because when I think of genocide, I think more of like ethnicity, killing people based off of discriminatory views outside so much of like religious belief.
I think genocides can definitely occur for religious groups as well.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, like, I know definition wise it is thrown in there as a subject, but I guess what I'm trying to say, at what point do we separate this concept that it's more of a religious battle, it's more of an ideological battle between these people, because one side doesn't have a religious calling to subjugate people who do not believe, but the other side does have a religious calling to subjugate people who don't believe, is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, okay. Now, the thing with the Hindu, I get what your question is. Now, when it comes to call for genocide, if your scholars, if your leaders, if your figures are starting to call for violence, that's when we kind of like, okay, there is, it's not ideological, it's more, this is a call for genocide. Like, especially when, this is something that you have to take seriously. Especially because when we evaluate religions, we don't necessarily look at only just the text, but we also look at scholarly opinion and opinions of leaders of said religion. So this definitely is part and parcel of the collective whole of the religion itself. So definitely this is very concerning when there are right-wing Hindutva groups calling for what do you call it? It's sort of like a religious cleansing of India, so to speak. So this is a very concerning situation. I don't know if that answers your question or concern. Why so?
It was just a ponderance, because there is one idea, there is one ideology facing another one, and one of them does not specifically call in their religious texts or any books. Yes, you can have scholars who call for it, but as far as their religious texts, they don't call for the subjugation of people who are not that religion, as opposed to the one that they are battling against or wanting to battle against actually does have that call. That's the point.
Yeah, and that's where it's sort of, you have to then look into the individual Muslim, the Muslim citizen. How are they living their life? Do they even follow said ideology that calls for the hate, right? So you have to kind of start to separate the individual, because in South Asia specifically, especially in South Asia, a lot of regular Muslims are not aware of the hate that their own ideology professes. So they're not even aware or ignorant of it, or at least would rather ignore it or not practicing. So there is a very big segment of the population that is practically ignorant of it. So they would end up becoming innocent victims of this violence. That is, and this is why we kind of need to discuss the ideology. Also bring this up, but also discuss the ideology itself. That criticism of the ideology and the hate crimes, we have to sort of separate them together and normalize criticism against Islam. So it's definitely a complex issue for sure, but definitely this is not something we agree with. Any form of call for genocide, call for hate, call for and in our show too, we say that we're not promoting any violence or hate towards Muslims, whatever we say, whatever our criticisms are. It's just the ideology. We have to start separating the people from arbitrary ideologies. I think that another article I have. Oh Jesus! Okay, I'm gonna share this as well, guys. Putin is being favored by Jamaat-e Islami. Have you guys heard of a Jamaat-e Islami?
I haven't.
Okay, Jamaat-e Islami. Ouch! What was that? Oh, okay, so so. Oh, is someone has a child in the background?
Yes, my son.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you scared someone, Mustafa. Scary
okay.
man.
All right, Jay. So Jamaat-e Islami is basically the right-wing religious party in Pakistan, and they have even a branch in Bangladesh as well too. So they're the fundamentalists, the ones who are always like, Islam first, humanity second kind of party. So Jamaat Islami leaders have praised Putin's anti-blasphemy stance. And he says that he hailed Putin's stance against blasphemy. And he says that the world's attention to Muslim feelings about offensive language and publication of blasphemous caricatures of Prophet Muhammad. Really? Because Muklan said that disrespecting Muhammad is not freedom of speech. I'm like, really, Putin? You're the kind of guy who's going to talk about freedom of expression. You're the kind of guy who's like, going to jail somebody just for disagreeing with you. So they kind of praised like the Jamaat Islami Amir. He said that the Russian president is going to play a leading role in mitigating a rising phenomena of Islamophobia, particularly in the evil West. I just wanted to add the evil West because most of Jamaat people will always label the West as evil, will always label, what do you call it? So you can play a mitigating. So he's saying this is a mitigating role. I see it more as Putin just trying to what do you call it? Please the population. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he's just
probably
trying. Go ahead, Waiso.
He's probably trying to stop Islamic terrorist plots that they constantly have to thwart. I mean, I watch RT a lot, and there's probably not maybe 2 or 3 weeks that goes by that I don't see them like showing camera footage of them thwarting Islamic terrorist attacks somewhere. Because you got to think, Russia is still really huge, and a lot of its places do have Islamic holdings and societies. And they really do plot and scheme against Russia. So he's probably trying to get that under control a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like there's probably some trouble with the Dagestan guys and like other areas bordering some of these areas that he wants to like control and appease.
Yeah, I think that may be definitely the case. And at the same time, I kind of find that this is just bowing down to the ideology and, sort of against the tenets of free speech, that is, like very, very much so. What do you call it? So, this Putin's kind of like, he's now also gaining favor of nations like Pakistan. Even Imran Khan had praised Putin as well as other Islamic nations as allies. So it's also, I see it as a political move as well. I see it as a very big political chess move. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I was thinking, was my voice cutting out? So yeah, I'm going to share. Now we're going to get rid of Putin because, his badass persona has been destroyed, in my eyes at least. So
are
now
we doing
we're
crazy comments? Or?
Oh, no. One last article. Sorry, guys. One last article. Afghanistan we're going to address because this has to be addressed. So Afghan women have been protesting against killing of ex-soldiers. And then when they were protesting, they just walked a few feet, and then the Taliban prevented journalists from covering this. There were only 30 women, and then they were stopped. And even a lot of nearby reporters someone ended up reporting this, but a lot of nearby reporters had their equipment confiscated and images confiscated. So I'm guessing the images they wanted to confiscate was how they dealt with these women. So it's a very troubling, and these are 30 very brave women that actually are standing up against the Taliban and their killings of former Afghan soldiers. And then they're also protesting women's rights because there has been a recent ruling that they cannot travel without a male relative. So Taliban is indeed pushing for its version of Sharia onto society, which we saw that as inevitable because they were, especially Pakistan's government was paying lip service to these guys. And, you have a situation like this where you kind of enable these guys to commit atrocities in this country, in Afghanistan. And I really feel bad for the Afghan population. But any thoughts and comments on that?
I would say if you're on your computer and you can go to YouTube Al Jazeera News, and today they did a short video and it's kind of funny. They labeled it something like Afghanistan still doing child marriage, though Taliban outlawed it, banned it. Now, what's funny is that when you watch the video, they changed the video to say that forced marriages are banned by the Taliban and not. So I just think that that's funny. Like that goes with trying to change. You know, they know Islamically that the Taliban is trying to enforce Islamic law, but even with Al Jazeera, which supports Islamic law, they don't want the world to think as a news headline that child marriage is wrong. That it is wrong, but then when you watch the article, the video, they actually change it. So I think that's kind of funny.
Wow. Actually, let me share the screen to the video that is. Let me just 1 second.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah, I found it. 1 second. Let me just share the screen.
Within the first like 30 seconds, they say they banned forced marriages. So that wouldn't be child marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so, and you guys can see this, right?
Afghanistan live people displaced by drought and war. But Aziz Gul's suffering doesn't end there. She's now trying to save her 10-year-old daughter after her husband sold her into marriage without telling her.
I started fighting with him and my heart stopped beating. I wished I could have died. I told my husband I'm not going to give away my daughter at such a young age.
Aziz's husband told her he did it for money, to feed his 5 children, and that without it, they would starve. He was, in his words, sacrificing one to save the rest. But Aziz, married off herself at 15, refused, instead securing a divorce for her daughter. It cost the equivalent of around $1,000, money they don't have.
Now we are not only struggling with hunger, we also owe money to the man. If we cannot return the money and he comes to get my daughter, what will happen? I would rather die than let him take her.
Despite a Taliban ban on forced marriages, the practice is
continuing. Oh, come on! Oh, come on! This is so deceptive.
Now, here's something else they're not telling you, right? And they know this, is that in Islam, even in the Quran, so it's not like you have to search hadiths, right? Let's say like this woman doesn't know tafsirs, doesn't know hadiths or rulings, but she only has the Quran at her. So maybe she doesn't really understand child marriage is in the Quran, but most of us do. But so even by the Quran, if you choose to divorce or not marry, then you don't have to pay for a divorce. You just give the money back that was the dowry. So this concept that I don't know where they got this concept. If the Taliban is on the hawk, right, on the truth, then why are they making people pay for divorces where consummation hasn't actually, where they haven't consummated the marriage, when the Quran says all you have to do is give back the dowry? So that's the reason this reporting seems very off to me.
Yeah, and they also forget chapter 65, verse 4, even in the Quran as well, that actually is, and if you expand on the tafsir, it is indicating child marriage as well.
Yeah, but that's why I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. If she just has the Quran doesn't explicitly say that. It just says those who have not menstruated, which could be various things, like some women have disease problems with their bodies or this and that. So you could, but if you do have the scholars, you have the hadiths and the tafsirs, then you definitely know it's about child marriage. But most importantly is I don't understand where she thinks that they have to pay for a divorce, especially if the consummation hasn't actually taken place. And actually, all the divorce is talaq by the male. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's all it really is. So I don't understand where this reporting is coming from. But it's proven that it's deceptive reporting when the title says Afghanistan child marriage, Taliban banned, and
Yeah.
then it talks about forced marriage instead.
Yeah, and it talks about like I never recall like Taliban ever banning child marriages, or even they've even sold young slaves as well, to slave girls we had with the Taliban too. So I don't know where they're coming.
The Afghans
Let me just continue this video.
Able to afford even basic goods, a payment from a prospective groom's family can amount to the difference between life and death. In some cases, families are now also giving up their sons.
It's heartbreaking. So it's the right time for the humanitarian community to stand up and stay with the people of Afghanistan.
In another part of the camp, Hamid Abdullah says he too is desperate for money to treat his chronically ill wife, pregnant with their 5th child. 3 years ago, he received a down payment for his eldest daughter,
Wait,
now
Mustafa,
7,
pause
to be
this.
married when
Pause
she's
this.
older.
Yeah.
If she's chronically ill, why are they on their 5th child?
Yeah.
That's the ailment.
Yeah, that's the ailment. Yeah. It's a hopeless situation. I can't comment on this. I can't.
But he needs the money
I
now.
can comment. I can comment. He should keep it in his pants.
Yeah, you were saying?
No, I was just saying I can comment. He can keep it in his pants until he
Yeah.
sees his wife.
Yeah, you should have done that.
Because if she's chronically ill, like in normal situations as well, pregnancy can lead to issues.
Yeah.
She's chronically ill. It's even worse.
Yeah. Mind you, this is from a very uneducated background, right? These are from very practically downright illiterate backgrounds. So it's definitely something that it's just something very difficult for me to comment on or make a judgment call on. So I kind of blame ignorance for this part of me. So again, this could just be but then again, I don't know. But yeah, there could have been measures of hey, don't fuck your wife, don't fuck your wife if she's ill. So yeah, there could be just ignorance in that, just general ignorance. And yeah, there's also the society thing where you want to have kids, you want to have more kids, and because they're seen as a commodity, right? So having kids is seen as a commodity in relatively poorer countries. So I think that also plays into this issue as well.
Yeah.
Now let's continue.
I have another daughter. I'm even willing to sell her because I need to buy food and medicine. I don't have any other choice.
And it's likely other Afghan families will feel they too have to do the same.
Jeez.
According to the United Nations, more than 3 million children under 5 are facing acute malnutrition. More mothers like Aziz facing the unthinkable. Laura Frickberg, Al Jazeera.
Yeah, so the reporting was very deceptive. Yeah, you think?
And one other thing, when the wife says, "Oh, you didn't tell me," where in Islam does it say that she has any say in it? Maybe she's reading a different Quran than I am, where she has any say as opposed to the male does. And
exactly.
I mean, it's really this thing that when you won't pity, feign ignorance. You get what I'm saying? Even because if you feign ignorance, then you can say something's not true, even though you know it is, and nobody can deny it, and then you're the victim.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's definitely a messed up situation in Afghanistan. But yeah, now I think we can go to the crazy comment section.
All right.
At this point, yeah. Oh, geez, Bureau.
All right.
You had some memes?
Yeah, I have one, and I was hoping you have some as well. We're willing to share anything.
All right, share yours first.
All right, so yeah, just pulling it up. 1 second. I found this particularly hilarious. So I'm going to show the specific one. Which one is it? Chrome tab. Yeah, here. Can you guys see it?
I can see it, but can you expand the screen a little bit?
All right, let me just zoom in a bit. Oh, it's not working.
That's okay. Hang on, let me try on my end.
Yeah, is this any better? Yeah. All right, if you can give it a try on your end.
Hang on, yeah, I can explain this one. One sec. Let me just actually let me share this one. Where is it? Come on. No. Oh dear.
Just so you know, I left a comment in that Al Jazeera to one person who said that Muhammad says that a virgin's silence is her acceptance. So I didn't hear that.
Wow.
I didn't hear that little girl say anything negative about it.
Wow.
Just saying. That's a hadith.
Yeah, 1 second. Crap. Where is it? Wait, Nick, did I share it on a group or did I share it with you personally?
Oh, no, I shared it to you personally.
Okay, I'm just trying to find it. Oh, there we have some interesting stuff. Okay, I can share my screen with you guys. This is gonna be evil. I'm gonna be so evil. All right. Let's see. Share screen. Can you guys see?
Yeah.
Okay. His reaction to Muhammad's reaction to multiple wives. Cute. I will have 13, please. Slaves. Cute. I'll have many, please. Women. War bounty. Cute. I'll have some, please. Black dogs. Not cute. Get rid of them all, please. You guys can see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So there is. All right. Now, Allah, when people are dying of plagues, famines, disease, and natural disasters, I sleep. Allah, when he wants to get laid, real shit.
Oh yeah, and Mustafa, I just sent you the one again in private that I want to share, so you might be able to see it.
All right, 1 second. I think we have our chat open. There we go.
Yeah, so as you guys can see, we planned the show quite a bit.
Yeah, all right. Don't worry, I never use condoms when raping my 9-year-old wife and is holding a child. Thank God. That would be immoral. This is dark and hilarious at the same time. It's extremely dark. And I think, yeah, that's our crazy
Comments for today.
Hang on. Let me just stop the sharing. Where is the stop sharing? Where is it? All right, stop sharing. Perfect. All right, so I think you guys did you have anything prepared for today?
Well, we had discussed on Discord, Nikitan and I, that there's a concept that I had thought of against Islam, and it's just using the Quran only, which Muslims like to get out when you start mentioning hadiths and things like that. So,
yeah, I'll share that message on the screen and read it out, and then why so you can explain it in your own words.
Alrighty.
All right, so share window. Yeah, so here's an interesting counter to Islam. Allah said, put a test in one surah against disbelievers. The shortest surah is 10 words. Quran 7, 20, 123 to 124. The Pharaoh speaks far more than 10 words. Since Islam believes in free will, Allah did not force the Pharaoh to speak the words that made it into Quran. And since the
Yeah.
Quran is eternal, the one test of the surah existed before the Pharaoh spoke. Allah mistakenly let a disbeliever ruin his own test because his Quran. So yeah, that's basically
Interesting.
the message that I wanted to show.
Yeah, interesting. Because I know in the biblical account, it's the Abrahamic God is making Pharaoh, he's hardening the heart of the Pharaoh, that is. Whereas, the Islamic account, there's no such thing. So yeah, you can explain why so?
So the concept is, so you could take it two ways, right? You could do it with the surah where he says, bring a surah similar or better if you are truthful, this and that. And then you could say, well, the Pharaoh is a disbeliever and he spoke Allah's words without divine revelation. So if you wanted to, you could say, so disbelievers are speaking Allah's words without revelation. How does that make Allah's words divine?
Interesting, yeah. So it does. It's an interesting concept. It's a bit complex.
Yeah, it is complex.
Yeah.
But if these words are divine,
Mhm.
then they should be sent divinely, and humans should not be able to say these words without guidance from Allah. And even in the Quran, it says that Allah does not guide the disbelievers. I don't think he says disbelievers. I think he says the evil ones, something like that. But it does, yeah. So the Pharaoh is definitely evildoer at this time, even though the Quran says that he cried out for Allah and became a Muslim right when he died. But at this time, it would mean that Allah is not guiding him, but yet he is speaking the perfect words of Allah.
Yeah, it does come similar to it does come in, it does make it, it does, he's independent and he's actually thinking independently. Is that what you're saying?
So there was even a Muslim that I got into a chat with. He's an Ibadi, and so they're a little bit different. But he is like, Islam doesn't have free will. So even if Islam doesn't have free will and Allah forced these words on this person, then that means that Allah is sending revelation and guiding his words to evildoers.
Yeah, and it's a direct contradiction too to the concept that he doesn't guide the evildoers, because there's another verse that says that Allah places a seal on the hearts, right? So he places a seal on the hearts of the evildoers. So it's like it's his doing. He's the puppet master basically in this situation. So he's kind of like a puppet master. So there's very like contradictory statements, claims that are being made.
So I've never heard anybody bring up this argument, and so I asked a couple of people, and one or two agreed, and then another one said they don't understand how it kind of contradicts Islam. But that was before I really flushed out the idea, because like you said, it's a complicated one that takes a while to actually think about. Such as it's especially hard for disbelievers to even wrap their heads around the concept that before anything there was Allah and His eternal speech, right? Yeah. And then the pen was created 50,000 years, and we're like, well, what the hell is a year? You know what I mean? So once you break it down like that, that means that these actions were even in Allah's speech, because the book is above His throne. You know what I'm saying? The preserved slate. So even before the pen wrote everything down, the Pharaoh was determined to say these words. Now, if you won't, so if you want to try to say that that there is free will, well, then that means that Allah's perfect words cannot be differentiated from disbelievers' imperfect words.
Yes, no, and the thing is, it kind of brings in the concept of predestination, right? So is there really any free will?
That's what I was about to get into next. So that was one side of the argument, is that if there is free will, then everything is, but it's wrote down in Allah's perfect words, and he had free will to choose his speech, the Pharaoh. That means that the Pharaoh, humans can speak Allah's perfect words without guidance, which is weird. If you say that there is free will in Islam, okay, I mean that there isn't free will, that everything has to be determined by Allah in the way that most Muslims do not accept the concept of no free will. You know what I mean? Like, but
they say that you are free to like reject the ideology. You're free to enter yourself in hell, right? So you put yourself in hell. So you were saying?
So the argument based off of that, and you can, I think in Nick of Time might have screenshots of with the Abadi Muslim who claims there's no such thing as free will. The big argument against there is no free will means that Allah is giving his perfect speech to the evildoers. And he's not doing it by revelation. Right? And so then that would mean that Allah, that would technically make either the Pharaoh a prophet or a messenger or both. Think about it.
I wouldn't say it's a messenger because again, he's seen as a creator of all, right? So it's like you're talking about someone who's perceived as the most powerful, the all-knowing, right? So the concept is an all-knowing, all-powerful, omnipotent. Yeah. So I think.
Yeah, I want to specifically show that discussion as well, but then again, I don't want to dox the person because the screenshots do show the person's name. So
he's a YouTube figure. It's not really dox.
Okay.
Mr. Pilu goes on to Jim Wallace's channel. He has his own channel that he does live streams. He goes on to a channel called Born Rich Club Films. So it's not like really doxing or anything.
Okay, yeah, you can show the screenshot as well, Nick.
All right, then
he's entered the public. Yeah, he's entered the public sphere. So it's not like.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so Mustafa, I'll send them to you, and if you can display them, because like I mentioned, so I'm sending it to you on WhatsApp.
I will tell you right now, after like 20 minutes, he eventually he admits he doesn't understand the argument. Like, dude, you just wasted like 20 minutes of my time, dude. I mean, I like Mr. Pilu. He's a smart person, I disagree with him on beliefs. He can be, in my opinion, a little hypocritical because as an embody, he believes that, if you sin once, you have to change and never make that sin again, or you're not going to be in paradise. But yet he constantly curses, you know what I mean? He does things that he admits are sin, but he doesn't play by his own theological rules.
And I think, just to explain to the viewers, the Ibadi are descendants of the Kharijites that revolted against Ali. So they are seen as descendants of the specific, sect. So it was one of the earliest sects that broke away from mainstream ideology. And we can also see their modern followers are mostly in Oman, mostly in the they're not many in number, and they're different from Shia and Sunni as well. So this is the third sect of Islam they're sometimes regarded as. So here we have the chat. Can you guys see this?
I'm not at my computer, but
on the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so yeah. So it says, why so religious puts in the idea. Okay. If there's no free will in Islam, which most Muslims and scholars disagree with you on that means the Quran isn't a miracle because it had to happen. And
I think that's a valid point too.
yeah.
Like if something to be a miracle, it has to be outside of something that has to happen, right? Like it has to be something that is necessary to occur, not necessary with occurrence.
Yeah. Mr. Pilo then argues, says, I told you capitals million times that the ideology of so-called Ahlul Sunnah is kufr. So what's the ideology of the Ahlul Sunnah? Which is the Sunni Muslims, right? So,
yeah, Sunni Muslims, like the main four schools.
So why so? And then you respond to his claim that there is no such thing as free will in Din al-Islam, which he makes a point. So if there is no free will in Islam, that means everything the Prophet said was, bro, Devon. It's a name, Devon. Everything Pharaoh said was Devon. Anyone named Devon here?
Oh, divine. It auto.
I know. I'm just messing around. Divine. So everything Pharaoh said was divine, yet he was a disbeliever and wasn't a messenger or a prophet. And then he asks, how so? So I think, he kind of, you sent more. Okay.
Yeah.
After
So there's
this,
5 pictures in total.
There isn't. Only God is divine. So he gets a little rattled up. So if there isn't free will, that means the Pharaoh was destined to say, since eternity, to say the words of Allah. Allah's words aren't created and are internal. That makes them divine. I think you had an autocorrect issue there. The idea in Islam is that Allah was sent to send his message to messengers and prophets, but yet we have the Pharaoh saying Allah's words without revelation. Take a couple of minutes and think about it, buddy. So the idea that the Islam that Allah has sent the message to, but yet we have the Pharaoh saying Allah's word without revelation. It is definitely a weird, complex, and contradictory idea, and this is something difficult to wrap their head around. So I do agree. And he's like, this is not relevant. Many among mankind were created to be fueled for the hellfire, so they're destined to do that. So what the hell is the point of that? Test them. So it kind of like when I actually look into them, like, what's the point of the testing? Oh, wonderful. Carry on. Don't mind me.
That response has nothing to do with it.
Exactly. I rightfully point that out. This doesn't answer it either. So Mr. Pelu then argues the Quran is created. I told you a million times that the idea of so-called is Jama'ah is kufr. Kufr means disbelief, or it's so. But then why so? Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Maybe more succinctly. So then you argue, when was the Quran created? And he says, I don't know. And what's funny is that you can actually pinpoint when it was revealed. It's actually in your own history. So you can actually just open your own book.
Well, we're talking about that is about, he claims that the Quran, the Quran is not eternal. And so the words of Allah are not eternal. So the question is, when did Allah create the Quran? That is the preserved slate. And that's where that conversation is.
Yeah. So you also ask him, so you don't know when it was created. How do you know it was created? No, and Mr. Product, I'm the only the shit out of this, and maybe asking them if I notice a glimpse of hope in the person. But then you ask them as well, so you don't get my point. Wait, then Mr. Pillow puts in the argument, because existence is 2 types, created and uncreated. Huh? I thought everything was created. What's this?
Well, Allah is not created. So in his belief, Allah is not created, which means that the Quran has to be created
Oh yeah,
and that it cannot be eternal.
Yeah, that just leaves one being that's uncreated, but the rest of it is created.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, Mr. Pello, you honestly believe there's actual physical jinn kind, and that most of it, humankind, are supposed to be fueled for fire? And then I think this is the last part, right? Still not answering questions. And Allah is created. Oh, my apologies. I read that wrong. I think I need my caffeine. All that is created has a creator, and the only creator is God, Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay, so this is from the Quran. And Mr. He points out that you're running in circles, basically. So, and then he points out, like, this is without a way to express him until he created expression. That seems like a limit of God. So,
I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a bit funny. Like, no, not.
But it's
wrong.
also true.
Yeah.
Like, if Allah has been eternal,
mm-hmm.
and the concept he's bringing is that Allah's speech isn't eternal, then that means Allah had a time where he couldn't express himself.
Right. Okay. It's so weird. It's very, like, it was definitely an interesting what do you call it, a conversation that you two had. I know the topic of today was the influences of other outside influences on the development of Islam, that is. So I don't know if we'll have time. Nick, do you think we'll have time for Quran or no?
I don't think we'll have time for Quran corner, but there is a quick Quran statement that Wiso sent as well, and it's the one that you sent with the Norwegian, similar to Wiso. So if you want to make a few points about that, I'll show that quote first. And we can go and Wiso, if you want to say a few things, and then Mustafa can say a few things, and then we'll go into the articles after.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was doing a live stream of just reading Sahih al-Bukhari. I used to do this like 3 or 4 years back, where every week we would read Bukhari, and we got through like 4 books. So I just picked up and decided to do it again. And I came across this one where Muhammad says he had a dream where there's a tree, and it's like.
Hang on, Nick. I can't see the. Hang on, Nick. I can't see this. Can I share it on my end?
Sure. So I'll send it.
It's Sahih al-Bukhari 2791. Because I think I'll ask you if it's looks okay on my end. Okay.
All right.
1 second. Share screen. It's this one. Sahih al-Bukhari 2791, fighting for the cause of Allah. So
yes, so it should be book 56, Hadith 9.
Hadith 9, perfect. So Prophet said, last night 2 men came to me in a dream, made me ascend a tree, and then admitted me into a better, and Subira was better, of which I've never seen. This is the house of the martyrs. Yes, you were saying why so about this hadith in particular?
So this is similar to the most known version that it would be similar to would be the Norse mythology of like Valhalla.
Interesting.
Right? Because they believe in a tree of life, and that the planes of existence resided on this tree. And this I mean, you do have this in African mythology too, which would be more centralized towards Muhammad.
Yes.
But so this is just another example, in my opinion, of how Muhammad is pulling from various sources that are around him or common at the time, where, you have a tree of life, he ascends it. And another way to actually give this more validity is the belief in the hadiths where martyrs are birds flying around paradise around Allah. So this gives it more validity that this is like Muhammad took this as a literal interpretation.
Yeah, and this is assuming the narrative is accurate, like the whole rise of Muhammad in Mecca and Medina. So this is assuming that this narrative itself is accurate, or the author of the Quran and the Hadith and the collectors of Hadith also like promoted this idea that they probably took from different sources, and then either we can speculate either Muhammad is a placeholder, or he himself was inspired by these ideas, or the authors of the Islamic ideology themselves were inspired by this and added it to their own ideology. So this is very interesting. That this is a very interesting point you bring out. Why so? Okay, so I think we're also going to look at the.
I tried sending one to you earlier. Also, let's see if this is it. It's where Muhammad says to Aisha, if your people had not, so Sahih Muslim 1333D.
I can pull that up for you. Sahih Muslim. Why so? Can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, Sahih Muslim 1333.
1333. All right. And is it, you said D?
D, yeah, the D. Or there's like 4 of them, and they vary a little bit from here to there. But if your people had not been recent converts to Islam, I would have spent the treasure of the Kaaba in a way that Allah would have constructed a store. But if you go to I think it's C or B, he talks about he would have destroyed the Kaaba. If your people had not been recent converts, I would have destroyed the Kaaba and rebuilt it in dimensions of blah, blah, blah. So
interesting.
He's trying. Yeah. He's trying his best to just kind of like how he kept circling the Kaaba in it. He kept kissing the stone. He kept various traditions. And this is like his intent. I want to destroy it. I want to destroy it and rebuild it. But that might cause disbelief amongst people. Why would that cause disbelief if they believe in Muhammad so much?
Yeah.
Because he's trying to appease the people from their various older religions.
Yes, okay. And this idea is entertained within the Hadith itself. You said C had also something similar as well? Yes, so
yes,
okay.
Hold on.
Didn't you? Yeah, I have it right here in front of the screen. Okay. Can you see it?
I'm not at a computer.
Oh, okay, perfect. So it says here, didn't you see that when your people built the Kaaba, they reduced on the foundations by Ibrahim? I said, why don't you rebuild it on the foundation? Thereupon Allah Messenger said, had your people not been new converts, I would have done that. So it kind of says that it's not the original, what Abraham built, and you guys changed it, but I would have actually destroyed it. It said if Aisha had heard from Allah's Messenger, I would have not seen Allah's Messenger abandoning the touching of the 2 corners situated in Al-Hijr, but for the fact that it was not completed on the foundations of Ibrahim. So basically what it's saying is that because it wasn't built on the foundations of Ibrahim, the intent was to destroy it, but because people had converted, he didn't destroy it.
Yeah, so this is just him, once again, trying to placate to people of different religions by putting and allowing their religions inside of it,
Interesting. And this is very interesting. It entertains the idea of, adopting existing beliefs and just making it your own for the sake of conversions. And existing religious and cultural the environment that is, which is very interesting.
But it also just doesn't make sense to me because Muhammad said, you do not have faith until you love me more than your mother and your father. So if that's a consecrate of faith, why would he worry about destroying the Kaaba and rebuilding it to cause disbelief?
Yeah, That was a sip. Yeah, he even ordered the destruction of other Kaabas as well in Yemen. But that's something we'll expand on in other videos as well. So I don't have the hadith with me right now. But I did. Nick had found some articles, so that the cultural influences of Muslims. It was a study. It was a peer-reviewed study. We found that even to this day, that there are cultural influences into the practices of Muslims to this very day. Like even though the core tenets are the same, but there is the idea that you can actually bring in existing beliefs. So, Nick, you want me to pull up the study?
Yes. So
Okay,
we
just
can
give me
go
a
through
second.
it briefly, and
Yeah, we won't go. We
and
won't read the entire thing because it's detailed as hell. So I'm just gonna share.
we can put it in the description as well.
Mhm.
And for the audience to actually read, because I know we only got like 4 left, and if we can spend like 20 minutes per each, we can probably.
Yeah, I think we can. Because I also have something to show at the end as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll. So it says most observers it's a monolithic religion. You guys can see this, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. While the majority of Muslims agree to the core tenets of Islam, Muslims across the world differ significantly on their levels of religious commitment and openness to multiple interpretations of their faith. In addition, fluctuation of the core tenets, the majority suggested that some Muslims might take religion a part of their cultural life and practice religion as a cultural habit. So religion is the cultural habit, and then there are many points where the cultural and religious practices are mixed. So it definitely looks into these different backgrounds. So it's going to study the everyday activities. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. They're making some references to academics. Yeah, popular culture and religion refers to consciously and or unconsciously. Again, it has to be both. Consciously and unconsciously borrowing examples, images, languages, themes, and assumptions from other popular cultural tools. So the existing popular culture is getting adapted, whether they realize it or not. So they even look at Christianity. I wanted to look at to the countries. Discussions. Oh yeah, these points. Ancient beliefs and customs of nations. So it looks at when people convert to new religion, they do not completely abandon their old habits. They give an example of pagans converting to Christianity. They folded their existing beliefs into Christianity. They even mentioned 25th of December. Islam does not have an exception to this rule either. So when Javanese accepted Islam in the 14th century, they adapted Islam to the main configurations of pre-existing Javanese religion. Islam did not create. So what what do you call it? Javanese is this? Do you guys? I don't. Javanese is this the one
It's from
in?
like the Polynesian area.
Okay. Yeah. And then they also acknowledge Indonesian Islam has more distinctly reflected forms and moods of the Hindu past. So Indonesia used to be predominantly Hindu before becoming
Yeah.
Muslim.
Angkor Wat, as well as the biggest Hindu temple, isn't actually in India. It's in
Mhm.
Cambodia, Angkor Wat, right?
Yeah. So there were.
And thank God that I know that's quite ironic coming from me, but thank God the Khmer Rouge didn't destroy Angkor Wat.
Oh yeah.
But
Otherwise, this would have been destroyed.
yeah,
So there's the syncretism. It talks about the syncretism. Um, so yes, so there is the healing rituals as well from Siberian and Mongolian shamanistic practice appear in the role of fire, signs, sickness, protected spirits, travel. They also have been observed in Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, Uzbeks, Turkmens, and Uyghurs. So these existing beliefs did reflect in their Islamic practice. Even though shamanism is more Islamized. So Alawi beliefs. There's also Alawi beliefs in Turkey. They go into the details. New converts wanted to embrace the religion. They express them in local components. Bengali Muslims used Hindu epics. Interesting. Consequently, some of them depicted Prophet Muhammad as an avatar of God, assimilated Hindu ideas of yuga as periods of gestation, apostatized Sufi leaders as guru. So even Sufi leaders are kind of like gurus as well. So it's very interesting that there's the influence, the outside influences on Islam that we know today. Then it talks about other cultures, religions that lived in the same region. So there's residue of ancient cultures that dwelt in the same area. So it shows two researches on Korean converted Muslims show effects of different cultural backgrounds. So it even happens in the 20th and 21st century. So amongst the 260 Korean converts, 61% of Korean converted Muslims drink alcoholic beverages, and 77% of them eat bacon and pork products, which is interesting. In Korea, indicates 25% of Korean converted Muslims continue to drink in 2001. This was in and 16% continued. So these are two separate researches that suggest that the Korean converts still had old habits that they could not get rid of. There's also research. There's a previous research. 70% of Turkish teachers state that they do not eat bacon or pork products. On the other hand, only 45% state that they do not drink because of the Islamic ban. We can interpret that 25% differences between these two categories. Implementation of it's highly dependent on cultural and traditional background. So this is interesting that old habits cannot be let go. Old habits die hard, even though Islam prohibits pork and it prohibits alcohol. But yet we have Muslims that actually continue to consume these products to this very day.
Yeah, and this all reminds me about, like, I don't know how much you know about the communists in India.
Yes.
There's actually a few communists who do prayers to Stalin and Marx, like they would to like Vishnu and such. So this reminds me so much of most cult-like personalities, where they have to like adapt
movements, right?
Yeah, and it's like,
oh wow,
okay, at the end of the day, Islam is a religion, so I can see one religion trying to merge with another, but the communism thing was pretty hilarious as well, and I think it's like a good mix to this as well.
Yeah, and I think the study does look at communist like Muslims as well.
Yeah.
So there was the holy war concept. So
yeah.
Islam orders Muslims to invite people to the religion, and they're also encouraged to do the jihad. Being the protector, Muslim nations have endeavored being protector and ambassador of Islam. So like Arabs and Turks. So therefore, holy war related activities entered popular religion. Like epic stories, like the most popular show in Pakistan to this day, El Tughril, that is, it's the rise of the Ottomans, has become such a popular show, and the epics are now interpreted as Islamic epics.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just to take a quick pause as well, why? So, is there anything you want to say on some of the points that we discussed till now?
I mean, I'll take the counterpoint where I don't think it's relevant. That it's more relevant about when Islam was being started and what the practice says, as opposed to when it went to new areas and them not really adapting to Islam the way that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, just my personal opinion about it. Like, that's the reason I've
Yeah.
been quiet, is because I don't really think that it's, all you're gonna get is, oh, they're not true, they're not real Muslims. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, so
yeah. No, there is what do you call it? Because like with when it comes to Islamic history, at least from my perspective, you also see the the sort of growth of Islam as well within post the birth as well. So there's the post birth, like you have the golden age, and then you have these influences um, in today's practices. Yes, so also there's something called visiting of tombs and martyrs and saints. This was, I recall the story from Karbala in Iraq, which has the grave of the grandson of Muhammad, who died in the Battle of Karbala, Hussein, and his family, his Hussein, Abbas, and you also have the grave of Ali in Iraq as well, the in Najaf, where Kufa was located. So this sort of like they're also in Iraq specifically. They're martyrs for Islam. So there is the concept of there are shrines dedicated to these Islamic figures, and this is from the within the first century of Islam. And then we have other what do you call it martyrs and saints within Islam that have different like graves. Even Muhammad's grave, even though it's forbidden to visit Muhammad's grave, but a lot of people do want to in Jannat al-Baqi. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of saints even in Pakistan that have graves as well in and we'll go into Sufism, there which are taken care of by Sufi practitioners. Um, yeah, so therefore everyone is responsible. So there's the mystical orders of the Sufis as well, and then we had the authoritarian states. So I'm just gonna quickly. So there's the Jamaat Tabligh. So we have what do you call it? So we have outside influences. Communism. There we go. It has affected the beliefs of Muslim nations in Central Asia, especially Azeri, Bashkir, Chechen, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Tajik, Tatar, Turkmen, and Uzbek. So there is the Soviet Union communist influences in their practices. And then there's the modern influences as well with modern technology. So I like how this article I recommend you guys taking a look into this. So there's the you have labor migration, Turkish Alawi, Javanese syncretism. So there's a lot of like different links to the what do you call it Islam of today, that is. So there's the conclusion. In this paper, I examined backgrounds of the activities of Muslims as well as relationship, and it's inspired. It's a PW Research Center surveys, which was conducted with 38,000. So there's only like the common belief in angels, heaven, hell, Prophet Muhammad, and then there's a broad agreement. But there are slight differences in cultural habits. So, you have different authoritarian states. You have Gaza, the Holy War, Islamism, Sufism. So all these things have had an influence on, the diverse, what do you call it, Muslim world that we see today. Whoops, I think there is a bit of a pause there. So yeah, any closing thoughts on this, guys?
None from me. I think we covered most of it, and I just want to like show those statistics that are actually in the article itself, because they were quite interesting as to seeing like where exactly we pull in the.
Wait, where's the statistics?
Essentially the reference. No, I mean like the facts that they were stating.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I found that interesting too, considering that there is a big blue. Yes, I know there's a big blue. It's converting to a word, not Islam. So it's weird that yeah. So it's a very interesting that they come up with figures that actually they actually indicated figures of how many what do you call it people did like how many people actually practice Islam, quote unquote. So hang on, let me just stop sharing this. I have I'll share the other two
Well, I
articles.
appreciate y'all having me on. I'm going to hop off here.
All right.
Sure.
So perfect. Thank you so much. Why? So if you have anything else that you want to contribute, please do feel free to join us. We're actually going to expand on this topic. If you have anything on previous religions, existing religious influences on Islam, that would be amazing if you have some research on that.
10-4. All right, guys. I'll see you here later. Y'all be safe.
Take care. Bye now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate YSO joining us today.
Yeah.
I think we had there's a presentation I just want to show. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to share the screen, and it's incomplete, but I'll share some interesting things about it.
Yeah, and like we don't have to worry because like we're doing this multiple episodes, right?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna do the slideshow. I didn't complete this because again, it's an incomplete because I was doing my research, but I did want to point out two Quranic verses in particular. So it says here, indeed, the Safa and Marwa are the symbols of Allah. Whoever performs Hajj in the house performs Umrah, so no blame on him that he walks between both of them. Interesting, there's no blame on him. And whoever voluntarily does good, then indeed Allah is all appreciative and all knowing. And even 25 verse 5 say, entertains the idea that, and they say, tales of former people which he has written. So Muhammad is accusing people as being accused of writing tales of former peoples. So the Quran entertains the idea of past influence. And 2158 is expanded upon in Sahih al-Bukhari, book 25, hadith 29. So this person, I asked Anas bin Malik, he said, did you used to dislike to perform tawaf between Safa and Marwa? He said, yes, it was one of the ceremonies of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, till Allah revealed, verily, these two mountains as Safa and Marwa are among the symbols of Allah. It is therefore no sin for him who performs the pilgrimage to the Kaaba or performs Umrah to perform tawaf between them. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, no, it's from my point here, like I can only say, why the hell are they performing pilgrimage for others other than the great God here?
And Safa and Marwa are basically the two mountains, right? So Safa and Marwa, I'll explain, these are the two mountains that allegedly Hagar was running between when she had thirsty Ishmael. Now,
Ishmael meaning
here,
the devil, right?
No, Ismail meaning the son of Abraham, Ismail the prophet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Iblis is the devil. I think you confused Iblis with Ishmael.
Oh yeah, my bad.
So many ish. So don't worry. Now here it says, Anas is saying that these were pillars of pre-Islamic practices. Now there's a more detailed story I found actually in this hadith that I'll open. It's a very interesting hadith that I found. BH Price, we'll cover this in the next episode because I did find a few things on the Gospel of Thomas as well. So what do you call it? We'll definitely look into this as well. But we're actually examining the Islamic text itself and see if it also entertains the idea of influences from existing cultures and existing practices. That is. So here we have. So you can read this, Nick?
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is someone who's asking Aisha. Urwa is asking Aisha, how do you interpret about the verse I showed you earlier about there's no shame, or there's no, like, Umrah is not harmful, are among the as Safa and Marwa symbols, and whoever performs Hajj or Kaaba or performs the Umrah is not harmful for them. So he says, by Allah, there is no harm if one does not perform tawaf between Safa and Marwa. Aisha, on the other hand, Muhammad's wife, said, "Oh, nephew, your interpretation is not true. Had this been correct, the statement of Allah should have been, it is not harmful for him if he does not perform tawaf between them. But in fact, this divine inspiration was revealed concerning the Ansar. The Ansar meaning the Meccans, who used to assume ihram. Ihram being the what you wear for Hajj, the with the bare shoulder, the white cloth, for worshiping an idol called Manat. Now, Manat here is one of either the daughters or wife of Allah. In some, was seen as the daughter of Allah, one of the daughters of Allah in pagan Mecca. So there was an idol called Manat that they used to wear ihram for, where they used to play a place called Al-Mushallal before they embraced Islam. And whoever assumed the ihram for the idol would consider it not right to perform tawaf between Safa and Marwa. When they embraced Islam, they asked Messenger, they said, we used to refrain from tawaf between Safa and Marwa. So they used to not, this was not part of their practice. So Allah revealed, verily, as Safa and Marwa are among symbols of Allah. Aisha also added that surely Allah's apostle set the tradition of tawaf between Safa and Marwa, so nobody is allowed to omit tawaf between them. Later on, who's Urwa, told Abu Bakr bin Abdul Rahman, and Abdul Rahman says, I have not heard of such an information, but I've learned men saying that all people, except those whom Aisha mentioned and who used to assume ihram for the sake of Manat, they used to perform tawaf between Safa and Marwa. So they used to perform this practice, these people who were worshippers of Manat, the goddess Manat. When Allah referred to the tawaf of the Kaaba and did not mention Safa and Marwa, so the people asked, oh Allah, we used to perform this to tawaf of the Kaaba, and it was not mentioned about Safa and Marwa. Is there any harm if we perform the tawaf between Safa and Marwa? So they asked, is it any harm that we continue this practice? So Allah revealed, verily, as Safa and Marwa are symbols of Allah. Abu Bakr said, it seems that this verse was revealed concerning the two groups who used to refrain from the tawaf in the pre-Islamic ignorance and those who used to perform it then. And after embracing Islam, they refrained from the tawaf. So there are two different groups. One that worshipped Manat and one that didn't worship another, did not. And then they sort of had, when they converted, they kind of avoided doing the Safa and Marwa tawaf, whereas the other group did. And then they asked, is there any harm? So Allah had enjoined tawaf of the Kaaba and did not mention Safa and Marwa until later. He mentioned Safa and Marwa in the Quranic verse, that is. So these are two different interpretations from two different companions. One is the wife of Muhammad and one is a companion. What are your thoughts on this, Nick?
Yeah, for me as well, I still don't get why they're showing respect to inanimate objects rather than I know this relates to what Smiles said before about why are you why are you telling your flocks not to worship idols whilst you're going around kissing a black?
Yeah.
This is all it one. If someone's coming in anew like me, it's it's insane.
Yeah, and this is the point I wanted to make, is that there's the basic pagan Meccan influence potential. That is, again, I'm saying potential existing pagan or Nabatean influence on early Islam. That is, early Islam, Islamic followers. That is, did not let go
old habits, that is. I'm also going to show you guys something also interesting as well. Oh, I want to ask you, Nick. Nick, let me just share the screen with you. I wanted to ask what this looks like. It's among Shia Muslims as well. Share screen. Share. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to do the slideshow. So I know I opened the detailed hadith. Now, Nick, what is this?
Oh, it's a kadai for Sikhs or like generally Punjabi people. They wear like a metal bracelet around their shoulder or around their wrist. I mean,
yeah, and Shia Muslims wear this too. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, and especially in Pakistan, they wear this the thing to signify, like, there's the morning of Muharram every year or so. So Shia Muslims have the what do you call it? Have adapted practices from existing Sikh, but from the Sikh, or maybe the Sikhs adapted from Shia Muslim, vice versa. It could be either or, but there's definitely an external influence here, because there's no text about this, but this is a practice with Shia Muslims as well. And I think that's yeah. So I was doing this. There's also something I wanted to share with you guys. They're called the red string. So hang on, just give me a second here. I need to stop. I need to be more tech savvy, like Nick. So I wanted to share the red string. The Kartuka. So I'll share this screen with you guys. It's just a Google search. It's a quick Google search. And here we go. So this is the Kartuka, is that correct, Nick?
So this is called the Raki.
The Raki, okay.
It's called the Rakri or Raki and such, and it's basically so generally, like, they use it for prayers and such. But a red string is also tied for Rakri on May or August or something in the lunar year for brothers and sisters, like almost like a sibling thing.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, there's a red string in the Kabbalah practice, Jewish mysticism, and this red string is also in Shia Muslims. I'll show you Shia Muslims. The Shia Muslims also wear something like this in their what do you call it, during their processions, that is. So Shia Muslims. So there's even why do Shias? So there's even a Shia chat. Why do Shias wear those red strings? So and then even different Islam helplines. Yeah. So there's. Are you referring to the red strings that? It's this person answers this question. So this person, I've seen a small number of people do it in Iran. Where's that question? Yeah, so they say some Shia wear strings. They represent the ropes and handcuffs playing on Imam Zain al-Abidin, the son of Hussein, the great grandson of Muhammad. So he was carried like, he was tied up. So they kind of do that as a representation. So there was, where was that? Yes. So are you referring to the red strings Pakistani Indian Muslims wear on their wrists? It's called kalaba. It was a Hindu superstition custom to wear it on your wrist to ward off evil spirits, as with many Muslims from the Yemen eventually adapted them for similar purposes. So I see people wearing them, especially in Muharram, so the first month of the Islamic year. Especially that's when Muhammad's grandson was killed. So the strings are touched by an alam. Alam is a flag, and the prayers are recited upon it, and it's part of the Fatiha for the martyrs of Karbala. So amongst Shia Muslims of I've even worn this too. I'll admit, I've worn this too back as a Shia Muslim. So this is definitely something interesting. What are your thoughts on this, Nick? That discovering that Shia Muslims shared part of your heritage, former heritage.
Oh, it's just more people trying to friend zone me or ruckery zone me.
No, but it's in our situation, it's not. It's more of a commitment rather than you're not going to get friend zoned with this. So, but it's very interesting, don't you find that they use this practice but interpret it very differently in Shia Islam, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely is interesting. Um, we have two other studies actually. We can actually go over the studies too. Nick, do you want
Yeah,
to?
I think we can save them for next week because we're almost at the 2 hour mark and I don't want to interrupt
Okay.
them
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they're
yeah.
very detailed as well.
Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is we'll go over the two studies next week. It's going to be about on the influence of world religions on international trade, as well as we're going to see the Quran and other religions as well. And we're also going to see influences on Islamic practice with others, because we're going to expand. We're going to see how many episodes, maybe a month, we'll spend on this, that there are external influences on Islamic practice today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this show. Did we have? Yeah, I think this is what we have. We'll try to cover Quran for next week as well. I know we've been putting off Quran for a while because that also takes up a good chunk of our time. But we had some interesting studies to look into, as well as interesting items to look into. So yeah, why so you shared Sahih Bukhari 4486. Let me just quickly look into this. Sahih Bukhari 4486. All right. And then, let me just open this up. Okay, perfect. Okay, this is another thing we'll share just quickly before we sign off. So we have about 8 minutes, so we can do one more item. 486. So this is Prophetic Commentary. So this is the Salah Direction towards Jerusalem. So this is the statement where the fools, the pagans, hypocrites among people will say what was turned Muslims from their Qibla. So in chapter 2, verse 142 of the Quran. So the Prophet prayed, it's still from Sahih Bukhari, book 65, hadith 13, just a reference. So the Prophet prayed facing Beit al-Maqdis, which is Jerusalem, for 16 or 17 months, but he wished that his Qibla would be the Kaaba in Mecca. So Allah revealed, and he offered Asr prayers in his mosque facing the Kaaba, and some people prayed with him. A man amongst those who had prayed with him went out and passed by some people offering prayer in another mosque, and they were in a state of bowing. He said, I swear by Allah, testify that I have prayed with the Prophet facing Mecca. Hearing that, they turned their faces to the Kaaba while they were still bowing. Some men had died before the Qibla was changed towards Kaaba. They had been killed and we did not know what to say about them. That is, their prayers, were they accepted or not? So Allah revealed, and Allah would never make your faith to be lost. Truly Allah is full of pity. He is most merciful mankind towards mankind. So what it says is, yeah, and Weiss also brings this up too. Muhammad wanting to change the Qibla towards Mecca, Allah actually reveals that a verse that, you know, the what do you call it? You have the change of Qibla, for example, is a very important, because like there was a different, and also there was a conflict with the Jewish people of the Jewish faith as well. So there's many multiple aspects to look into that. But you see, there's two existing practices facing Jerusalem, facing the Kaaba, which is in Mecca. Two existing practices that just changed, and this is just at the time of Muhammad. So it kind of goes to show another example of Islam kind of changing based on the existing beliefs. Wow, do you have what's your analysis on this, Nick?
Yeah, no, it's basically I think that's a lot of things that we see with the Hinduism as well, because like in my experience of Hinduism, they basically say that, oh, they they basically say, oh, Hinduism is basically people who live under the Hindu Kush,
Right.
and whatever religion you follow, you're still a Hindu because you live under there.
Right.
And I think like they're just following the same principle in Islam, where they're trying to like convert people. So it's
Yeah, it's a similar principle, trying to like grab as many people as possible within that ideology. So it's very interesting. Like both Hinduism and Islam have this thing in common, where they try to like accumulate as many people as possible. And I think even Christianity may have a history on that, but especially in Islam, we just saw in a study how diverse the world of Islam is with regards to different backgrounds and different peoples. So this was very interesting. Even within the first century, we saw that there were changes already, and then history also told the change. Even to this day, to the 21st century, we have converts from Korea still eating bacon and drinking alcohol. And then here we have an example of the Qibla change as well. And then we also discovered the Safa and Marwa practice as well, that Anas bin Malik and Aisha explained about, that them being initially like, the followers of Manat. There was a conflict between, like, the followers of Manat would wear the ihram. Even the ihram itself was worn by the followers of Manat, who was a goddess, one of the daughters of Allah in Mecca. So we're accommodating existing practices into within the first century, where we're seeing this already, that there's accommodating existing practices into Islamic fields. And we will expand. I would love to expand on this more. And what are your thoughts on this, Nick?
yeah. So I want to specifically do that interaction with Hinduism as well. We might. So next week I'll probably bring in my presentation as well for that. But this
Okay.
is going to be a very long topic itself. If we get into it,
Yeah.
we're gonna go for hours, and I think like
Oh
it's
yeah.
something we can discuss in Discord as well
Oh yeah.
a
And
bit
I
more.
love this topic. I won't be able to join because I might be able to join. I just need to charge my laptop and then I'll join the Discord. I might join the Discord actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. What do you call it? You see that we have an example of existing cultures, influences. It's so fascinating, and we also I have other. Even though I had an incomplete presentation, but I did find something substantial within even in just two hadiths and two Quranic verses in itself. So we have we'll also look into like Christianity's influence on Islam. We'll look in other episodes. We'll look into Jewish influences on Islam. We'll also look into like Zoroastrian influences on Islam as well. So I'll try to find, but in no particular order. We'll try to find as much information as possible and discuss this, because this is very interesting as a topic about Islamic ideology. And Nick, do you have any last? Oh my goodness, I was going to say any last words.
Yeah. Why do you want to kill me?
No, I don't want to kill you yet.
Yeah, you still need to learn how to use Streamlabs before you can kill me.
All right. Yes, I know. I still struggle with StreamYard, so I know I'm not qualified to even, plan an assassination. So it's pretty useless. But anyway.
Yeah, I'll be joining in the Discord as well. Thank you all for. I know today's a holiday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you're sorry. I cut you off. My apologies.
But yeah, no, so I think like at this point we're almost at the 2 hour mark, and I just want to thank people for showing up today. And the fact that you guys know that we exist, and then the fact that you guys want to hear us talk about this topic is insane.
And the fact that it was a holiday, and I did the poll, and 78% of you said no, do it on the holiday.
we love to
Yeah.
hear this. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, the
okay, let's
reason
do this.
yeah, no, the reason why I'm so happy to do stuff like this is like there's this guy Bill Burr. I don't know how many people know him, but some audience member was like, "Oh, thank you for reading my question." He's like, "Bro, the fact that you know that my podcast exists, like there's free porn on the internet, and the fact that you're watching mine instead of that, it like makes me feel really happy." And I'm like, "That's a fair point." Like,
The fact that you guys chose us over pornography or cute cat videos or anything else on the internet, thank you guys so much for this love and support. Yeah, I think we'll and those who've not watched it, don't worry, you can also watch this later as well if you had to sign off. But thank you so much for joining us today. And I will say this, either I'll say Allah Hafiz or Khuda Hafiz.
all right, see you guys.